They say there's a chance I could die from breast cancer.
Or from a melanoma.
I could die from heart disease or even from a brain hemorrhage.
Maybe in a car accident.
But the fact is, the biggest cause of death for women in my age group is suicide.
Lifeline's actually a lot more than a crisis hotline, but certainly we're probably most famous for our 24-hour telephone crisis service, 13 11 14. Our crisis service talks to over 1,200 Australians every day for a range of different things. I guess at the pointy end of the service, up to 50 calls a day from people at high risk of suicide. But people call us for all sorts of reasons, including they might have relationship problems, they could have financial problems. They just sometimes just need somebody to talk to and get a different perspective on things.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
Lifeline's absolutely committed to suicide prevention, and we do a lot of work. We're actually the biggest provider of suicide prevention services in Australia. There's a lot of research which indicates that having a crisis line that's there 24 hours a day, that's accessible to people in a time of crisis, actually helps us make a positive impact on suicide rates in Australia. As I said, we talk to over 50 people a day at high risk of suicide. That's 50 people that we talk to that we give hope and perspective to.
Be alone, I'll get there somehow.
We offer a range of different services. We operate out of 60 locations around Australia. We have 42 centres operating out of 60 locations. In many of those locations, as well as manning the phones, telephone crisis volunteers, there's also face-to-face counselling services. There's financial counselling, for people who might have financial worries or gambling problems. There's suicide bereavement services that we offer. There's a whole range of services that might be specifically required in a particular region.
Being a Lifeline volunteer has really helped me in my own life.
Lifeline now has 10,000 volunteers around the country, including telephone volunteers and volunteers in a number of our retail outlets around Australia. But I guess Lifeline started back in 1963 with Sir Alan Walker, with one phone call. Sir Alan Walker spoke to a man who was distressed, and found out a few days later that man had actually taken his own life. And he believed at that time that nobody should be without support. So basically the phones haven't stopped ever since. To become a telephone crisis volunteer, there's quite a significant training schedule, if you like. In some cases it's up to 6 months training, so there is a screening process. It's a fairly heavy commitment. But certainly we, at the moment, have over 3,000 telephone crisis volunteers in Australia. They do an amazing job. Certainly if somebody is interested in volunteering for Lifeline, they can visit our website, lifeline.org.au, and there's plenty of information there about making that step.
Become a Lifeline volunteer and make a difference to people's lives. Call now or visit our website.
Where do we start?
Friday the 23rd of July is Stress Down Day. We're encouraging people in workplaces and in schools to wear their slippers to work, to dress up or dress down, or find another way to stress down and support Lifeline's work. Stress is part of our everyday lives. We know from a recent news poll survey that we did nationally that 9 out of 10 Australians are stressed. A large proportion of Australians are experiencing unhealthy levels of stress. Now, a small bit of stress in our lives is important. It keeps us motivated and keeps us moving along. But it's when stress starts to consume our lives that it can become unhealthy, and it can really wear us down, and it can cause us not to function properly. So Stress Down Day is about taking a breath and having a look at the impact on stress in our lives and working out ways that we can make things a little bit easier for ourselves.
Brighter than anyone. Yeah, you shine like the sun.
Lifeline's one of these organisations that is so widely spread around Australia with so many volunteers. There's, in many cases, a lot of our advocates have been touched by Lifeline at some stage in their lives. Steve Bastoni, who's another advocate of Stress Down Day, who you might remember from Neighbours. Steve actually had a personal experience in his own life and needed to use Lifeline services. As a result of that, he decided that he wanted to do something to give back and to help build awareness about Lifeline services and our need for support from the community. There's a very similar story across the board for our other advocates. John Howard, who was an actor on All Saints, he lost one of his colleagues, Mark Priestley, to suicide, and John has been a great advocate in spreading the word about Lifeline and about help seeking. Lifeline relies on the support of the community. It does receive funding from federal and state and local governments as well. A lot of our funding comes from our retail operations. Lifeline has a number of retail outlets around Australia which sell recycled goods, clothing and whatnot. We also rely on donations from the community. We receive a lot of unsolicited donations for our work. And also people might make a donation which they want to direct towards a specific service such as suicide prevention. For Lifeline, our national website, lifeline.org.au, is a great place to start. There's an enormous amount of information and self-help toolkits, anything that you need to know. There's also links to local centres and the work that Lifeline's doing in your community. Stress Down Day, the best place to go for Stress Down Day is stressdown.org.au, and you can register your workplace or school to get involved in our only real national fundraising event.